Masonic Light podcast. This is Past Master Moyer calling with my critique review of episode 93. Author, Brother Ronald Bates, who wrote a book entitled Shakespeare's Lost Purple Bloodline. Man, that guy's intense. Threw a lot of information out there, a lot of theories. My head is still spinning. Dutchy Doug was hilarious, explaining the facilities or outhouse at his lodge and the troubles Brother Eli had when the floorboards cracked and he fell into the you-know-what. Then, after the author left the episode, you guys had about a 10-minute talk about trustees and lodge investments or appendant body investments. That was very interesting, and probably you should have an episode just with talking about trustees and investments. Michelle Snyder's explanation of the gavel was very interesting. And let's see, Brother Jim Stevens, Business of the Lodge, brief. Real nice talk on leadership. And Brother Cronkite, cut off due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That's a shame. So I guess we won't hear any news from him for a while. And lastly, I'm going to get to Larry Merris. Merris, Pete Ruggieri gave you some notes for the episode. You didn't have them. They asked the author where they could buy his book. He said on Amazon. A minute later, you asked, where can I get the book? They told you on Amazon. And lastly, nobody gives two hoots about your love for chicken pot pie, so just drop it. You're getting old, you're repeating yourself. We've heard this pot pie story numerous times, especially at Goose and Gridiron Breakfast, so just let it go. That's my critique. I'm going to listen to episode 94 shortly. I'll be back. Bye.
From the new recording lair located deep beneath the Wine and Spirit store in Ephrata, Pennsylvania.
You're listening to the Masonic Light Podcast.
Studio 665 presents Masonic Light Podcast. This show is recorded by Masons, for Masons. It is for entertainment purposes only. And please, no wagering.
This podcast is not endorsed by any Grand Lodge, and the ridiculous ramblings of the hosts are their own. And now, here's your host.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Hey, welcome. It's Pete and the guys here. It's episode 96.
96. 90. Wow. Oh, man. That hurts.
Yeah. And what's really crazy is this is our first recording post the Knights Quarantine live show.
PV. Can we call that PV? Post-virus? No, we can't call it that.
So, one of the things we're going to do tonight is we're just going to have a little recap and talk about how that went. And, I don't know, that's pretty much about it. So we'll start off with you, Jack. Normally we'd say, what have you been up to Masonically? But we've all been up to the same thing.
We've been up to our ears in it. It's been great. It was a lot of work to get ready for, but it was a lot of fun to do. I'm flabbergasted, really.
It was crazy. Basically, Jack wrote this script, and then I made some drawings, some renderings, and then Josh put lots of stuff together in a PowerPoint. And somehow we all came together and made a show with live voice actors.
With audience participation.
What do we have? 8 actors all together?
I think it's 8 or 10.
No, it doesn't matter. I can't count that high anymore.
Anyway.
But it was, despite me sending out the wrong URL a couple times.
I like how you included that in the degree, by the way.
That was cool.
Yeah. That's the callback. I learned that from Dave Chappelle. You gotta. But yeah, it was interesting. But what I can't believe was how many people were actually on the call.
Amazing.
It was like, 200, I think, total.
Yeah. We sold 197, but we had cast and everybody else. It was over 200 people on a Zoom call.
Who paid to be on a Zoom call?
Who paid $30 to be on a Zoom call?
Right. I mean, when we started thinking about this, we the first look at the jewels was 50, maybe.
And we were going to have leftovers.
And we were trying to figure out how to sell them at the antique stores, but it just to have 200 people, it still boggles my mind, honestly. But there may be people listening to this that don't know what we're talking about. If you don't, it was like Pete said. It was a degree we threw together. We recorded, I think, on the 25th.
Yes.
And Seth Anthony, at the end of his Corpora Obscurum, just kind of whispered sideways and said, "Hey, wouldn't it be interesting if we put together a degree about this quarantine thing?" And we kicked it around a little bit, and I was telling Mike Moran, it actually, after I got started with it, it really almost wrote itself. It's a classic hero's tale. An unsuspecting young hero is assigned a task that he doesn't understand or whatever, and he's sent out into the world, and it really contains all the stuff that you'd look for in a hero's tale. It kind of wrote itself. It was kind of interesting.
And I was really amazed at, people were on that call from all over the world.
All over the world. There's we had guys from Scotland, from UK, from Australia. I think we had a couple Canadians in there. Mind-boggling.
And, I'd like to thank all the Freemasons worldwide that set the bar pretty low, that actually thought that we did a good job. We got some high praise despite a mediocre job.
Well, I think also, we overcame a lot of obstacles. In addition to, what people didn't know was the original link for the call I sent to Pete was wrong. But I caught it and sent him the correct one, but then he sent the wrong one out. But then literally at almost the last minute, we should probably mention that our buddy Larry Merris is not on the show tonight. He had a medical emergency that developed. He's okay. But he literally the last minute, we were scurrying around, number one, making sure he was okay, but filling a role kind of last minute. Then as Jack said, it's been amazing, the response that we've gotten from this. We had made mention, I think, on our last show about a nightly toast that we're doing. Eureka West Shore 302 has been sponsoring. Since the show, people have been jumping on that, bringing friends with them, and continuing to talk about this degree. I think we struck a nerve, and I think what it says is people are looking for stuff. They're looking for Masonic. They're looking for something Masonic, however they can get it, and we just happen to be the only game in town, outside of the professional stuff that the Northern Masonic jurisdiction does on Thursdays.
And I hope that there were people that came to us for the first time and came to understand that you can have fun in this fraternity.
Yes.
There's a lot of seriousness, and there should be, but there's also an opportunity to just, let your hair down and have fun. And that's what we did. And that's really what the show is all about. So hopefully there'll be some people that can sort of, recalibrate their Freemasonry a little bit. The
one thing I found really funny was when we started kicking this around and we started designing the jewel to work with the degree.
This is amazing.
John Bridegroom came up with this amazing design. He's from the masterscraft.net. And you have to take us back in time a few weeks ago when we knew even less than we know now about the COVID-19. And they were making predictions of, mass casualties and so if you know me personally, I'm not normally the voice of reason. So, but I looked at the jewel and I'm like, it's a little scary. It's a little dark. Maybe we need to lighten it up a little bit because we don't want people to get the wrong opinion.
Yeah. We didn't know if there were going to be bodies in the street with this thing. I mean, that was the scary.
By that time, who knew?
So, I think we totally made the right call in changing the jewel, but continue with the story, Pete.
Yeah, so we changed the jewel to a kind of a more emoji looking face with a mask on, and it's cool. And people signed up, and we had 200 people sign up for this degree. Well, a couple people saw the original design and were like, hey, if you make that, I'll buy it. So I'm like, hey, John, maybe we should sell some of these just for our show. Well, in the next, 36 hours, I've sold 153 of the original jewel with a scary looking guy on it. But if you buy one of those,
ropes call it the jewel sinister, right?
Yeah. Yes. So that money will go to help buy us new microphones. That won't make our show any better. It'll just make us sound less crappy. But anyway, it's a great success. I think, and now what's going on is lodges are reaching out to us if they could play our degree in a Zoom call with their lodge. And I just think that's amazing.
I can't even wrap my arms around that. But maybe someday in 100 years, the future Pikes and Mackeys will be writing treatises about the deeper meaning of this degree. Who knows?
Well, and two different legitimate Masonic publications have reached out.
Yep, they have. I mean, and and I was working with one of the fellows on the framework for an article, and you know what? It's all there. It's the characters all have a place and they all have a signification. And if you're really the kind of person that looks for symbols, whether they were intentional or not, it's all kind of there. It's ironic, but it's I don't know. It surprises even me now when I'm looking at it.
I think it proves the point that all of us that helped with the degree, we're passionate about it. Even the people who had a small voice part, they made time to be on it because it was interesting to them. And there's I don't know whether if it's ritual or not, but anything that's to be done worthwhile, you should do it properly. Well, we put a lot of effort into it, and guess what? We got a lot of response. And I just think that's something that if you just go to your lodge and you half-ass a degree and you half-ass something, your lack of interest is going to translate and people aren't going to be into it and they're not going to show up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So
that is my understanding is this will be our next episode. Is that correct, Pete?
Yeah, I think the working plan is that we're talking on episode 96. Episode 97, we're actually going to play the episode for everyone, and then at the same time, we'll put our the video of it up on the website so you can see our faces moving MST3K. But it was fun, and you could tell that all the people that were watching it we're just starved for some companionship and fellowship, and yeah, it was nice. And then the Tim's call afterwards, like we said, there was like 40 people on it from all over the world on his toast call.
Yeah. Well, and it continued the next night, and it's continuing on. It's expanding. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Pete. People just are ready for some Masonic companionship.
Well, that's awesome. So I guess for the rest of our episode tonight, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and you're going to hear a conversation that Tim and I had with Daniel D. Natale from Buffalo and Isaac Moore from the Bronx, and talk about a few different interesting things. It's mainly illegal Hawaiian shirts.
Among other things.
I know nothing.
All right, so take a quick break, and we'll come back with an interview.
Why choose George J. Grove & Sons for your next home improvement project? At George J. Grove & Sons, we've built our reputation on quality and trust for more than 50 years. From planning to materials to installation, George J. Grove promises a home improvement experience second to none. Whether your goal is reducing energy costs, decreasing maintenance, updating curb appeal, or simply increasing the value of your home, the George J. Grove team will recommend and provide solutions that stand the test of time. Call 717-393-0859 for an estimate or visit us at georgejgrove.com.
Good evening, everybody. Hey, it's Pete and Tim, and we are with our special guest tonight, Daniel D. Natale from Pittsburgh. Not Pittsburgh, Buffalo. See, it's the left side. Sorry about that.
Of course.
So, Daniel, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's another steel town. We'll let it slide.
Okay, yeah, it's. I think Buffalo may be less depressing than Pittsburgh.
I would agree completely.
You get better food, maybe too.
I would agree completely.
I hear things are really good there.
So, Daniel, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're from Buffalo. Are you the worshipful master this year, or you were a past master?
Oh, I'm a pastor. I'm a right worshipful. I was district deputy 2016 to 2018. I'm past master of Harmony Lodge number 699 OM in Buffalo.
Very cool. Yeah, in Pennsylvania, you don't get called right worshipful until you're like in charge of the whole state.
Yeah, the titles. I'm an honorary member in Oregon, and they made me an honorary past master. And the way they explained it to me was that I got this dues card that says most worshipful on it. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, most worshipful? What does that mean? It's like, oh, it's like an honorary thing. We give it to people who are honorary members. And I'm like, that's awesome, because in New York, it means something totally different. So I got the certificate that says most worshipful in my bar, and I just laugh every time I walk by it.
And we did just cover before I remembered to turn the microphone on, the recorder on, that you are deemed essential. So you are busy working during this whole pestilence and plague.
I am. I work in downtown Buffalo. I'm in the financial industry, and yeah, we're still essential. I'm there every day. So the world hasn't changed too much for me, but the world around me certainly has. And it's scary, but it's good that I can, the one thing I guess that's good about a bank being open is at least it's a feeling of some kind of normalcy. So, I mean, that feels good at least.
I mean, I guess your commute's a lot shorter.
Oh my God. Yeah. 10 minutes.
and gas is a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot.
Apparently, it's negative $37 a barrel today. So if we can afford to buy a tanker, let's get it done.
I know, right?
They're giving it away, right?
So Daniel, the reason why we have you here today is you gave a Zoom presentation last week for the Grand Lodge of New York. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it was on the history, form, and function of tracing boards. So what we're doing at the Grand Lodge of New York, so I'm on the Leadership and Educational Services Committee for the Grand Lodge of the State of New York. And with everything that's going on, we wanted to provide something. And we took a program that we were actually going to be using for really leadership training. And we took it apart and we used all the technology that we were going to use for that. And we changed it. And now we're providing online lecture courses and all sorts of other online content. So last week was our first speaker series. So I spoke on the history, form, and function of the Masonic tracing board.
Very neat. And you said it was very well attended. Do you know how many people were online with you?
Yeah, a little over 50. When we had brothers from all over the world, so I've lectured with the Grand Lodge of Portugal and helped them with the history and function of tracing boards for their ritual. They're currently doing some updating, and they wanted to know how these objects would work inside their ritual. So actually, last time I gave this presentation, it weirdly enough was on Zoom to the Grand Lodge of Portugal about a year ago. And then we had brothers from all over Canada and a couple of brothers from Virginia. So it was really, really, a good smattering of brothers from all over the world, which I guess goes to show you that Masons everywhere want to hear something.
So, we don't expect you to give your whole presentation, but can you tell us, an abridged version of your of the tracing board history?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first joined Masonry, I was involved in a lodge that was starting to go into the direction of traditional observance, and I was an apprentice. I didn't know what that was. But as I started to learn, some of the other younger members that were new to the lodge were really forcing that to be a thing. And it actually ended up happening 4 or 5 years ago. We actually became recognized by the Grand Lodge of the State of New York as an observant lodge. We were actually one of the first. And in that quest, I learned about tracing boards. It was actually one of the first traditional Masonic practices we brought back. I know it sounds weird, but in the States, the tracing board kind of got skipped over. It fell apart in some respects and how we use it ritually. And my whole presentation really goes through the history of where this object came from inside of Masonic history and what is its context, what does it really mean, and how is it used. It really takes it from the beginning. So where it found itself in ritual in the Edinburgh Registry House manuscript and in 3 distinct knocks. And then as we trace it through Masonic history, we find that there was a progression of how lodges were described. So in modern times, when I say, hey, I'm going to lodge, we're talking about a building most of the time. We're saying, I'm going to the lodge building. I'm meeting in the lodge room. Well, our early brothers, they met in bars, barns. They met in fields sometimes. When they said they were going to lodge, they didn't mean a physical thing. It actually meant an object, in my opinion, or a sanctified space that they would use objects on that eventually over time would progress to these objects of tracing boards. So the concept of the word lodge starts with this object of the tracing board. And then as we start to build more elaborate and more beautiful temples, they kind of go away because the props become all around us. And now with Masonry's kind of change, you're seeing a loss of our great buildings and a return to some of these ritual uses because we need these symbols back. And it's, when I give a historical lecture, I use a visual prop. It's pretty common in a lot of grand jurisdictions, but they don't understand where the practice comes from. And that's where my work comes in.
Do you see that, with this big push with doing all this stuff on Zoom right now and social distancing, and I would imagine even with whenever this gets relaxed, because we have so many elderly members, we're not going to have full lodge rooms for quite a while. Do you foresee any of this stuff creeping back into our ritual if we're going to be more without a building, if we're going to be doing stuff online more?
Yeah, I think so. It already was. So, I think the concept, again, of how we view lodge space is going to change. And it already was changing. We're seeing it in New York right now. Like in Buffalo, give a little history of my great city. Second biggest city in the state. Buffalo, in its heyday, was as wealthy as any other major city in the world. It actually had more per capita millionaires at the turn of the century than any other city in America. So when Buffalo was in its heyday, it was like crazy wealthy. So we built edifices to rival edifices. There were temples that were built in the city of Buffalo that were unlike anything built in the country. And then as Buffalo went on its decline, we lost those great temples. And now we meet, God's Truth Lodge building that I meet in is a funeral home. At least it was. and they retrofitted it into a Masonic edifice. But the temple wasn't built to our purpose. It was just available. And there aren't really that many purpose-built Masonic buildings left. So the use of props is almost a necessity. I see them coming back just as brothers needing to help during the ritual work. They use them as aids. So to have purpose-built props that fit the ritual we're giving and then also can be used to expound a greater lesson naturally find their place back in the work because that's how it always was. They should always have been there.
Very cool. We just had our special visitor just pop on as well. Would you like to, mystery visitor, would you like to say something?
Thanks for having me.
Oh, God.
Hello from the Bronx.
Daniel, do you recognize this voice from your past?
Isaac Ambrose Moore.
This is your life.
How you doing, Isaac?
Good, my brother. How are you? How's Western New York? You still have snow?
No. It only snowed last week, and everything's fine again.
They just got some up in the mid-Hudson Valley.
Oh, geez. I'm hoping it doesn't do it anymore. It's sad when I'm looking forward to rain.
It's springtime in Western New York.
Yep.
So, yeah, we had to balance things out with a Western New Yorker and an Eastern New Yorker and find the dichotomy.
A balance indeed.
So tell us a little bit more, Daniel, before we get into Isaac's brass hattery about your tracing board lecture. How long do you usually do this when you talk about it in Lodge?
The full program, probably about an hour and a half. So it goes through the origin of where the object comes from. So where it is in ritual, even in our starting days. Then it goes through the lodge form. So there's a diagram. If you ever want to look it up, it's in a Masonic exposure from the 1700s called Jenkin and Boaz. And inside there, they have a chart. And it took me forever to figure out what they meant by it. And then it just clicked. It's the chart. By the chart, they meant it's what they drew on the floor. Chalk, charcoal, and clay have a actual purpose. They're not there on accident. I get a lot of brothers who get into the deep alchemic meaning of it. And that's true, but more often than not, things have a practical purpose. And in this instance, they absolutely have a practical purpose. They were used to draw the lodge space. And that lodge space then grows into a three-dimensional object in some respects. The symbols we use become more complicated. The lessons we teach become more esoteric. And in doing that, the lodge space becomes more complicated. And then they go from, drawing it on the floor to having the master's carpet. And then from the master's carpet to having an actual board. And then in some respects, at least in the States, from the board to elaborate temple buildings that became three-dimensional props for the works that we give. And that, clearly connects the tracing board. And in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, in your ritual for dedicating a lodge space, it actually says that the lodge is consecrated by placing it in the middle. And then a little asterisk says around the board. And it's like, oh, so it's not the actual building at all. And it's not. It's an object. They're talking about the tracing boards.
Very neat. And how many times do you think you've done this presentation?
25, 30 at least.
So now we'll bounce over to you, Isaac. Isaac, you're a member of, is Mariners your main lodge?
Mariners Lodge number 67 in New York City.
Very cool. And I showed up this year for your beef steak banquet.
Yeah, that was a pretty tame one this year. They tend to get a bit rowdy, but that was a lot of fun.
Daniel, you were there too, weren't you?
Not this year. If I would have known everything was going to happen the way it did, I would have gone. But I was supposed to be in New York like 6 times already this year. And I'm like, something had to give, and that was it. I went to the one the year before, though.
Yeah. I guess what I forget sometimes here is that I'm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm 2.5 hours from New York City. You're further.
Oh yeah, was it like 8 hours away? An 8-hour drive?
About what is it? It's 3.5, 4 to get to Utica. That's dead center. It's about 6 to get to Albany. About that, I think.
Isaac, could you tell our listeners and tell Tim, because he's really quiet. Tell us a little bit about the Mariners Lodge. I was really taken by just how unique everything was.
Well, excuse me. Where would you like me to start? Just the festive boards or history?
Let's just kind of do a brief history, and then we'll get into the festive board a little.
Well, our lodge was founded in 1825 by the Schismatic City Lodge of the Schismatic City Grand Lodge of the state of New York. Somewhere, I think it's around 1830 or whenever they formed. Daniel, do you remember when they formed the current Grand Lodge? 1830 something?
It would have been because of the first Grand Master of it came from Buffalo, like the Buffalo, and the second came from Buffalo. I should know that.
They asked us to join. We were originally Mariners Lodge 389, I want to say. And then we got a lower number because we were one of the first lodges that came into the fold. We were founded by sailors, and our due structure, and we were set up so that, brother could go out to sea and not pay his dues for 2 or 3 years and come back and not be in arrears. There were a couple examples. One good brother passed away at sea, and his dues were not up to date. And they brought him in a pickle barrel to the door of the lodge, and his dues weren't up to date, and the secretary refused to accept him. That's
very nice.
It's from 1828 or something like that. Over time, we evolved and changed with the city, and currently, I'd say the past 10 to 12 years, we've had a real resurgence, primarily from the work of Right Worshipful Samuel Lloyd Kinsey and Brother Alessandro Gagliardi, who lives in San Francisco now. And we focused a lot on ritual work, making things more of a challenge, and you have to earn things more to become a member of the lodge. And we raised our dues. And, you'd think that would be contrary to making things work well, but it did. So it takes, you show up to your first Mariners function as a guest. You're not handed a petition for a minimum of half a year. So you're going to come to 6-8 months of dinners and events before you're even given a petition. Then there's that process. You have the investigation, blah, blah, blah. So it could take you year and a half before you even do your first degree. So, making the process something that you have to earn, and you're tried between degrees. You have to read read a paper, an open lodge. Making something that you earn has really added value to Mariners. And within the 12 years I've been in there, I've seen our numbers explode. And it's not just putting butts in seats. It's participation and, brothers show up to lodge because there's something to do there. And, we actually have to bring extra chairs in sometimes to accommodate brothers. So it's been an interesting decade with Mariners.
Daniel, you were saying that your lodge was going into being a traditional observance. Have you noticed something similar as the work got harder and that you got people more involved?
Oh, absolutely. Harmony was on death's door when I became a member. I know they joke that the district deputy has a list of lodges that he should look at. And everybody jokes, right? Oh, that's not real. No, it's absolutely real. When I was district deputy, they were like, all right, these are the following things you're going to have to look at. And we were on it. They were expecting us to close. And when we, about a decade ago, started looking at traditional observance as a model, and we started networking with the Masonic Restoration Foundation. We had Andrew Hammer out to the lodge. I mean, there was all sorts of things we did. And as we raised the bar, the brothers, as members, raised with it. And then, there was years where we were having, 10 brothers, come through, and they were all doing these, what we would say are very high membership standards. They had to produce a master's piece in order to go on to their third degree. They had to be fully proficient in all the work. They had to do reading assignments. I mean, and we just made it harder and harder and harder. And all it did was bring more and more men in and kept them, which has been really the secret to our success in a lot of respects.
Sweat equity. I honestly believe in sweat equity in the lodge, and we put our entered apprentices and fellow crafts to work in the kitchen. They serve dinner and clean up dinner for 3 years. They set the lodge. They break down the lodge. And by the time that they're raised, they feel as if that lodge is theirs. They own it. They will show up. And they do the work. It's not just given to them. And like Dean Natale was saying, there has to be a lot of education and a reason to show up for lectures beyond just, making the guys work. But we found the more you gave them, the harder, I wouldn't say harder, but the more challenging you made it, the better off and the healthier our lodge has been.
Tim, have you noticed anything like that in Pennsylvania? Because I've been out of the East since 2005, and you've been secretary, so you're more on the front line than I am.
Well, I would concur that my what I've observed is that there is nothing but strength to be gained by the lodge by upping your requirements and upping your expectations. I don't know of a lodge in Pennsylvania that goes to the extent that Isaac described, but I certainly would concur that when you make something valuable and worthwhile, then you really have to want it to really move forward with it. And so when we merged, I guess 8 years ago now, the other lodge, their dues were much lower than ours, and it was a big conversation because we had some of the highest dues around. But we've also got one of the highest memberships around also. And we've got good participation. We had a couple of brothers that dropped out of line for various reasons, but historically we've had strong officer lines. Our past masters take on a very supportive role of masters. I know when I was in the East, basically the past masters were like, we're here for you if you need us. Otherwise, we're staying out of the way, and just know we got your back. And so there was a great deal of freedom in that. And I'm sure there are lodges like that. But my experience in Pennsylvania is that we don't have a whole lot of lodges that have the kind of expectations that was just described.
So the other thing that the four of us all have in common is the Mystic Order of Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm.
Yeah, baby.
A solemn institution.
The lead of organizations truly chosen.
Right.
So we'll start left to right. Daniel, tell us a little bit about your grotto out there in Buffalo.
Oh, what can I say about Zalikia number 10? Well, it's actually one of the oldest concordant bodies in Buffalo. I believe we're older than the shrine, which upsets them greatly. Back in the day, so the Grandmaster Edward G. Gilbert. Grandmaster Gilbert, God, he's in his 80s. And he was telling me a story about when he was a little boy. And one of his first memories as a child is his father marching in the Zulika Grotto band. They had a huge parade corps, and he remembers them marching down Main Street. And this is his first childhood memory, and he tells it to everybody who asks about Grotto. So it's a strange history in some respects because it's such an old organization in Buffalo, and it's pretty contiguous. Outside of being, ridiculous and run by miscreants and malcontents, but it's just interesting that history is all there. And really, when you go through the whole thing, Grotto played such a huge part in Buffalo Masonry that it literally touched. I think every grandmaster but one, and that came out of Buffalo, and there's quite a few. Can
you show me on the trestle board where it touched you?
Yeah, deep in my heart.
Okay,
nice save.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Grotto's is super active too, which is out of all the concordant bodies I'm in, Grotto as of late has had I don't know, we've had classes of more than 10, which I think is pretty impressive because I don't think I'm really involved in Royal Arch, and out of one chapter in our area, we don't get that many. So Grotto's definitely offers the fun and fellowship that we Masons demand.
And Isaac, there's some really cool history with two really cool histories with Azim, the original guys, and then the modern guys that kind of hit it with the paddles and brought it back.
Well, the original guys Azim Grotto were the oldest surviving grotto, I believe, after Mokana, which is the governing body. So if you're in the Supreme Council of Mystic Order Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm, you're in Mokana Grotto. So they're the oldest. And Azim were number 7, and we were founded in the Bronx in 1892, I want to say. It was around, since I'm trying to think of who. We had some bigwigs in there. So if you see the symbol of the Mokana, that was made in Azim Grotto. It was kind of, I don't think it was as popular as it was in Buffalo downstate. And with me and past Monarch Victor Mann and a few other prophets took it over. It was held together by 3 prophets, one of which had passed away and nobody knew about. And past Monarch Leon Weinstein was paying the per capita out of pocket and holding on to the charter just so it wouldn't collapse. Leon, he's getting up there. Leon's probably creeping up on 90 now. And he was going to give it up. And we're like, hey, do not give this up. We got it. You don't have to do anything. Show up. We're paying for you. Hang out. And we ran with it. Other bodies that everybody's in, we're all in Mecca Shrine. We're all in New York Valley. The Grotto offered a place that was just fun and informal. And a lot of brothers really kind of disparaged it and looked down on it, but it gave a lot of tri-state Masons a tool where they could informally hang out, not worry about titles, rib each other a little bit, and get to know each other without the faux pomp and circumstance. And we kind of used it as a petri dish for the shrine or for our lodges, where you could kind of not mess up, but you could experiment more with the Grotto and take those lessons back to your lodges and apply them, with events. And I would say I've been to 6 or 7 lodges that needed somebody to come in and fill in as a junior warden that I had met in Azim. So it is still an excellent means to connect with other brothers that you might not normally run into. And Azim is cooking, man. We're doing good for the next 100 years. I would say easily we have the next 20 monarchs ready to go. So we're good for a generation. Who knows where they'll go after that? And that's
awesome.
And it's good to see there's some younger guys like our current monarch, Zach, who's in line. He's our junior warden at Mariners. It gives a place for some younger brothers to feel comfortable speaking publicly. Gives them an early opportunity to lead. And, nobody's like focusing in on you that you're going to screw up the grotto, like, oh, ha, 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 you screwed up a little bit. But you don't have the weight and expectation on you as you do. And I seriously believe that brothers who have left Azim Grotto after all the joking and all the fun, they've taken lessons from it and brought it to their lodges for their lodge's benefit.
And Tim, would you concur? Because we restarted or we created Ubar about the same time as
it's pronounced
Isaac.
Ubar.
No, it's the Ubar Grotto. I remember Seth and George Heinzen talking about the creation of it a year or two before it happened, and or maybe it was just a year before it happened. And I remember them asking me if I wanted to be a charter member, and I was working at the time in a job that had me literally on airplanes every week in a hotel room, probably 150 nights a year. And I just couldn't do it. So I think I came in year 3. But no, I agree. And I think the camaraderie and the competition, if you will, the fun competition with Azim really makes it even more fun. Our guys love the Azimians. And then we love to rib them too. So there's a great and I have not been to a Supreme Council meeting. I had planned to go because it's in my home state of Kentucky, but I'm guessing that's probably been canceled. If not, it will be. But I hear that we're 2 of the strongest grottos within the entire Supreme Council. And the thing about Ubar is we love controversy. So, we wear those illegal fezzes.
Whatever do you mean?
The Fezgate, we had Fezgate that went through, and that was a lot of fun, and it's still a lot of fun. So, no, I would agree. I think it is clearly gives the brothers that come together something they don't get anywhere else. I don't see us in competition with anybody, any other body. And in fact, as you mentioned, Isaac, I think most of us are all in Shrine. We're all in the York Rite bodies. We're all in the valley of either Harrisburg or Reading. So, and we're not just in those bodies. We are either leading them or have led them. And so it is a fun place to get away, have some fun. And it is truly one of my must-go-to meetings of a month.
I'm always amazed whenever we have our, pardon me, my allergies. And allergies this time right now, it's not a good look. So, pardon me. People, oh my God, it's seasonal allergies. So anyway, when we started, we took it over. There's a prophet in our grotto named Rick Addison, and he owns, at the time he owned 5 or 6 bars around New York City and hotels. He owns Monarch Lounge and a couple others now. But we used to meet in rooftop, like gazebos and glass pavilions, all these hotels in Times Square. And there were maybe 6 of us, and, kind of like half-heartedly go through the opening, blah, blah, blah. Then we hang out, smoke cigars, and have fun. Now, when you come to an Azim Grotto meeting, it's in the Grand Lodge. The Grand Master's there. There's 40 prophets. We have a guy on the Grand Line now, the Supreme Council, and it's, I was monarch in 12, and we resuscitated it in, I think, 10 or 11. And in that 9-10 years, it's like a functioning, real organization again. It's kind of shocking.
One kind of cool thing, and I'll bring Daniel back in on this. We've all kind of become friends through Grotto, even though we're in separate cities.
Exactly.
And we hang out online. We have I can't mention the name, but we have a private group online that has nothing to do with Grotto.
Absolutely nothing. I don't even know what you're talking about.
What are you talking about?
What are you referring to?
I have no knowledge of this. What are you speaking of?
But anyway, we've made like some really good friends all over the United States that our common link is we are in Grotto.
Absolutely.
See that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you guys get in trouble too. You guys both designed some things that the Grand.
I don't want to talk about. Yeah. Do you want some? I have a lot of them left.
The shirt
I know where
right now. The shirt is still good. It's good again. I mean,
is it banned again?
No, it's not. It's
well, then I got a couple of shirts available.
Well, the Ubar guys want some shirts, so you tell us what sizes you have. We'll sell them.
Double F.
I mean, as long as I don't get in trouble, I'll make more.
You're right. Daniel's like, I want to make some Hawaiian shirts. I'm like, you got to throw this stuff on. Daniel did all of the heavy work. That's all him. I just threw some stuff at him, and he pulled it all together. And he did it. Not that I'm casting blame, but he did all the work.
It's cool. Everybody almost gets kicked out of a corn potty.
So we were thinking, Hawaiian shirt. There should be like hula girls on it. I'm like, I don't know, man. We still Masonic body. We probably shouldn't have hula girls on it. Blah blah blah. And he's like, I don't know. It's a Hawaiian shirt. We didn't put a hula girl on it, right? Thinking this is going to be a wholesome
the most acceptable thing to do, right? Like, I don't want to be a misogynist. I'm not going to put a half naked woman on this shirt. We'll put something classy on it.
The wholesome choice. There was a devil head on it. The whole world stopped.
You would have thought I shot a judge. And it was like,
like what? But this is a wholesome option. Yeah.
So one of the benchmarks is if we think the Supreme Council is going to have a problem with something, we're definitely going forward with it.
Well, I even got in trouble for the tie. I did does anybody have the 8-bit devil tie?
Oh yeah,
I do. I love it.
That was also one of my fine creations. And they got in trouble for that too. And I'm like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong.
We got you that because we have the set. We have that black tie with the red stripes.
Yeah.
It's like a number 7 with a devil on it.
Yep.
And Prophet Daniel Gian and I made that. And we just got in under the radar on that one. Nobody's noticed it. It looks like a collegiate tie till you get up close. But they didn't bust us on that one until now.
I don't know. You can't win.
So Tim, we need to design something down here in Lancaster. Maybe like an Amish hat fez or something.
Just don't put that many pins on it.
So what do you guys? Do you guys have anything coming up Masonically in the future? Are you guys laying low? I mean, like officer lines and such.
Well, our current monarch is Zach Ostro. Good kid, our lodge, Mariner 67. I feel bad for him because, this year is pretty much shot. Maybe you should give him the Grotto, you can take it easy on him and let him just do another year. After that, Anthony Ruffini, who has big promise, but, it's nothing's going down in New York City until next year, man. It's pretty bad down here right now.
Daniel, anything on tap for you up in Buffalo? Are you still an officer in anything?
Oh yeah, I'm the secretary of my lodge.
Sucker.
Yeah, I don't know why I said yes to that. Now there's no way out. The only way out is death. It's like, this is a lifetime appointment, and I'm like, I thought I was elected. Oh no. I'm a trustee I was just high priest. I'm a trustee there. I'm an officer in pretty much everything. I'm not AMD. What else? No, I'm not. Oh, York Rite College. I'm an officer in York Rite College. Yeah, I'm pretty busy. And there's all the Grand Lodge stuff I get to do.
Wow. So, Tim, what are you doing? You're just drinking, right?
I'm drinking right now. Actually, I'm still doing a bit of secretarial stuff for Eureka West Shore Lodge number 302, where I'm secretary. And we've been, knock on wood, the entire time. We've only lost one brother so far. So although we do have a couple of others that have been diagnosed with COVID-19, and we're obviously wishing them well and their families well. But I am, if we ever get back, I'm supposed to be going into the line of the Lodge of Perfection in the Grand Valley of Harrisburg. And so looking forward to that. That's really the only other elected office that I'll be holding coming up.
Yeah, I'm the secretary for Tall Cedars, and I'll probably be there till either I die or Tall Cedars dies. I don't know which will happen first. Oh, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on tonight. Is there anything you want to plug? Daniel, do you have any more talks coming up?
Yeah, we're Grand Lodge, State of New York, with Leadership and Educational Services Committee is going to be hosting Masonic Conversations, the lecture series, every Tuesday. The information will be on the Grand Lodge's Facebook page, my Facebook page. We actually have one coming up tomorrow. Right Worshipful Michael Weisberg is doing a poem called To the Benefit of the Brethren. And it was actually, I think he said it was actually done, first started during wartime when Masons couldn't be together. So it fits for what's going on today. So it'll be really exciting. That starts at 7:30. And the dial-in information is all on the Grand Lodge webpage through Facebook.
And you do have more shirts for sale for everybody that's listening.
Oh, yeah. I think, I mean, they might be weird sizes. I think I bought John Roberts an extra, like, whatever size.
Extra petite?
Yeah, extra, like, small petite. So if anybody, like, wants one that they could make, like, a tie or something, I have them.
Isaac, what do you have anything coming up, or are you just kind of laying low?
We're just laying low, man.
Sounds good. Well, guys, thank you so much. I'd love to have you on again because there's some other topics I want to cover. Like, I'd love to pick your brain, Isaac, on your whole Bronx, your involvement with the Bronx. It's not Masonic, but I think it's interesting.
Oh boy. Be ready for a long show.
Well, we can break it up.
We'll get Brother Angel Hernandez in on it too.
Oh, that sounds awesome. All right, Tim, do you have anything to offer before I close everybody down?
No. To our guests, if you've not signed up for our digital nights of the quarantine, don't forget to do that. If you're listening to this show, it's too late. Wait for the show to come out soon and listen to it. It'll be great.
Yeah, as of right now, we have 150 people have donated $30 to hear us screw up.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
All right. Well, Isaac, since you're from the Bronx, you'll appreciate the music going out, even though more doesn't sound very Italian. Gentlemen, thank you so much. And
At the historic Smithton Inn of Ephrata, Pennsylvania, we're pleased to serve the latest creations from Weathered Vineyard Winery, along with spirits from Thistlefinch Distillery in Lancaster, all to be experienced in the tasting room of a beautifully restored 18th century bed and breakfast. Cigars by D&S Cigar are available for your enjoyment in the courtyard. The historic Smithton Inn is convenient to Lancaster County's most interesting attractions, just minutes from the Ephrata Cloister and the Green Dragon Farmers Market, and a short drive can get you to charming Lidditz, thriving downtown Lancaster, as well as Hershey, Bird in Hand, and Intercourse, or Valley Forge and Gettysburg. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or an active vacation full of sightseeing and attractions, the historic Smithton Inn will be a welcoming oasis from everyday life, one that you'll want to visit again and again. Stop in and visit at 900 West Main Street in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, or check out our website at historicsmithtoninn.com, or simply call us at 717-733-6094. Just ask for Past Master Dave.
And we're back. So everybody, thank you guys. You just got to hear Daniel and Isaac. So let's go around the horn. Jack, what do you have coming up Masonically in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I think I have at least 2 papers to write. But other than that, it's just going to be keeping on studying the stuff I'm studying. I'm dredging my way through Albert Pike's Esoterica right now. So that's a bit of a slug, but interesting stuff. So that's about all. Just trying to keep my feet in it.
Tim, you have anything going on?
Just every night, the toast to absent friends and brethren at 9:00. You can get details on both the Masonic Light Podcast Facebook page and website, or you can go to the Eureka West Shore Lodge website. Every night at 9:00, bring your favorite beverage and enjoy some fellowship.
Josh?
I think the only thing I have coming up is we're going to do our lodge's monthly get together on Zoom. But
Good.
Other than that, that's all I got.
Are you going to play our degree?
I don't. Nobody has asked me to play it yet, so I don't want to necessarily force it on them. But if somebody asked me to play it, I would think about playing it.
That's your job as worshipful master, to force stuff on people.
That's right.
You know,
it's the only time in your life you can force them to do stuff.
I am just a figurehead.
Benevolent dictatorship, Josh. Never forget that.
I am the titular head of Lamberton Lodge.
What?
Ooh, who's going to go there? Who?
No, I'm not going to take that low for. So, what do I have going on? Well, I've been getting a lot of orders in for these jewels, and luckily, some of those people are also ordering scarves and bandanas. So apparently, in today's day and age, scarves and bandanas are the same as a face mask. So I guess that's good for Pete. Yeah. And I'm going to try to figure out something to do for our patrons. So if you're one of our Patreons, you might get an email. If I have in my email, what are you wearing? Please don't take it creepy. I'm trying to figure out your t-shirt size.
That what he's asking is, does your shirt have a collar or not? Okay, that's all. That's really just, yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. Alrighty, I think we're going to get out of here. Do you have any news, Jack? I don't think so, or do we?
I did not do news. I wore out Walter Cronkite at the degree. So, and Larry, get well, buddy. Yeah. This will be getting released when you're getting sent home on Monday. So once you're home and you get on the computer, we'll give you a call and we'll let the listeners know how you're doing.
And I think in honor of Larry, tonight we're just going to have chickens. I'll do the outtake on us, and we'll just let the chickens take us out.
It's the Larry Merris, all chicken, no turkey, supper club band.
All chicken.
All chickens all the time.
You want the chickens? Chickens!